My name is Richard Shelton, and I am the Director of Staff and Provider Development for the Tennessee Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. And in that capacity, I'm responsible for the training of 2,500 departmental staff and over 30,000 employees of our provider organizations. I just celebrated my 29th year with our department. Back in the mid-90s, I had the good fortune to be trained in personal outcome measures. And at one point, I was offered the opportunity to be one of 3 people chosen nationally to be part of a leadership alliance in which my state agreed to pay my salary while I participated and traveled with the council, who paid my expenses. And I got to travel all over the United States at various times and interview people and learn more about training. One of the things that probably my aha moment was how that this is the piece of the puzzle that's been missing, is that I knew that in one of my prior jobs that I had been a interdisciplinary team chairperson. It caused me, my new training caused me to rethink that and to realize that we had people just come into a room and we would talk about them and we would do reports on them and oftentimes not even ask them a question or have a discussion. And that all of the assessments that people read were summarized into 2 categories. Essentially, they came out with the strengths that identified strengths the person had, and they identified what were called the weaknesses. And what I realized through this training is that, in looking back at the past, we never selected from the column of what people's strengths were. All planning was deficit-based. And so if a person couldn't tie their shoes or count to 10 or write their name, then that's what ended up being on their plan. No one ever asked them what they wanted to be. I had the good fortune to meet a person here in Nashville who had worked in one of our sheltered workshops, and I was doing an interview with her. She had spent 20 years in our workshop and never made more than $2 a month. So if you can imagine 20 years, $2 a month, that would be about, that would be $24 a year. And that'd be about $480 over 20 years. And so when I was observing her and having conversations with her, I noticed that she was frequently redirected to come and sit down, and staff would say, Jesse, you need to come back and stay in your seat, remain in your assigned area, and you need to stay on task because you know you're going to get paid your $2 at the end of the month. Well, I talked to one of her staff and found out that one night that she had gone to Kroger's shopping with her housemates, and that she was being observed by the Kroger store manager. She didn't really do the shopping, her housemates did the shopping, and Jesse did what Jesse does. The Kroger store manager came down and stood behind her and observed her, and what she was doing was she was taking everything on the shelves and she was pushing the cans back, turning the labels to the front, lining the boxes up. She sensed his presence and turned around and he said, "Young lady, you have an ability we would like to employ." And I'm thinking while I'm talking to her and her staff person is, how is it that a Kroger store manager can recognize that she has abilities and all we've ever recognized are disabilities? He offered her a job there. She had the wherewithal to ask how much it paid, I guess thinking that she could probably end up worse off than she was. She did have some obsessive compulsive things. She really was really good at organization. She thought about it overnight and she went back and she accepted the job. Immediately she was given a blouse that had a Kroger store emblem on it. It had a name tag, Jessie. She was assigned her job duties. They were very simple because they were skills she already had and that she enjoyed doing. Her very first monthly paycheck paid more than she had made in 20 years in our sheltered workshop. And she became a very valued employee. She became a consumer. One time I found a cat in a creek up in Kentucky, and I went to take him to the veterinarians. I'm looking around, and And I'm going, I had pictures on the walls, and I'm saying, is this Jesse's cat? And they said, you know Jesse? And I said, yes. And they said, well, she brings her cat here. Well, she got that cat because she got in the car one day at Kroger's, and the staff, she asked her staff, she said, what does the word free mean? And her friend said, the staff person said, Richard, you know, I told her all the different definitions I thought of what free means. She said, but I didn't think to ask her why she asked that. And she said the next day, Jessie came to the car, and she had her hands clasped together, and she reached over with one hand and opened the door, and she lowered this little orange tabby kitten, and she said, it's free. And so she took that cat in, and she ended up buying a customized castle for that cat, and I have a photograph of that cat in my office. And her life changed completely. She bought cameras, and she traveled the neighborhoods, and she had relationships with people in the community and friends from work. So at that point, it was very clear to me that CQL was, to me, one of the most progressive and cutting-edge organizations in the world, and that they had the secret treasure, that we needed, and that was the personal outcome measures. And it's made all the difference in my life.